It's May 3rd, 2022, the capital city of incredible India, the New Delhi. My name is Jong-woo Han. I am the president of Korean War Legacy Foundation, which has more than 1,600 Korean War veterans interviewed from all over, including now India, so that we have 22 country Korean War veterans interview will be completed. We are doing this to preserve your memory. Your father's memory, right?
Yeah.
Because you seem to look too young to be Korean War veteran, right?
Yeah.
And we want to honor your father's service for the Korean War. But at the same time, we want to make these interviews and the videos available for teachers in the history classroom in India and all over the world so that they can keep talking about the Korean War that your father and others fought for 70 years ago. That's
Absolutely.
how we want to make the Korean War not forgotten. It's my great honor and pleasure to meet you, sir, and thank you for coming. Please introduce yourself. What is your name, sir?
My name is Brigadier Dr. Amitava Banerjee.
You have two titles.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by brigadier?
I have served in the Army Medical Corps of the Indian Army. I was commissioned in 1983.
Yeah.
For 3 years, I served in the same battalion as my father, that is 60 Para Field Ambulance.
Wow.
Thereafter, I went on to do service in the various other units of the Indian Army. And I superannuated in my normal time in 2018.
So brigadier and doctor.
Brigadier and doctor. I'm a specialist in radiology, and I have a total of around 35 years in the Army Medical Corps. My initial 3 years, as I mentioned, was as a paratrooper, joining 60 para, and I have a total of a tally of 87 jumps from 4 different types of aircraft.
Amazing. So you are in continuation of your father's legacy.
Yes, my father was quite insistent that my first unit in the Army Medical Corps should be the same one where he was commissioned in, that is 60 Para Field Ambulance.
So tell me, what is your birthday, sir?
My birth date is 1st October 1958.
August what?
1st October 1958.
58. So you are now
64th year running.
64. You look very young, sir.
Thank you for saying so.
But please introduce your father. What's his name and spell for the audience, because nobody knows yet from this interview about your father. So could you tell?
My father's name is Lieutenant General Ashok Banerjee, ASOKEBANERJEE. I repeat again, ASOKEBANERJEE. His Banerjee, Ashok Banerjee. He was awarded with the PVSM and the Veer Chakra, which he was awarded in 1951 in Korea.
So tell me about his birthday.
Okay. I can refer to a few notes. He was born on 2nd of January 1926 in Darbhanga, which is
Spell it.
Darbhanga is DARBHANGA.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was Captain A.N. Banerjee. He was also a medical officer who had served in the British Army from 2015 to 2025. And he fought in the First World War in Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia.
That time Mesopotamia, now Iran.
Iran. Yes. So tell me about how your father actually, when he got into the army, Indian Army, and what did he do during the Korean War? So I would not interrupt you, but you can go on. Tell me about the whole life of your father and stories of your fathers during the Korean War, please.
Okay, I will start by giving a little biodata on my father, his entire career. Thereafter, I will comprise my talk and photographs on his time with the 60 para field ambulance from 1950 to 1953.
Excellent.
So as I said, my father, he did his MBBS, his medical graduation from Prince of Wales Medical College, Patna. And he was commissioned in 1948. He was a renowned footballer, and he was selected for the Indian Olympic football team in 1948. However, being his final year in medical college, he declined to go. He joined 60 para field ambulance as a lieutenant in October 49.
October 49.
1949 in Gurdaspur. 60 para field ambulance in those days was located at Gurdaspur, and he went to Korea with the 60 Indian field ambulance, as it was called at that time, from November 50 to June 53.
November 52.
November 1950.
50.
June 1953.
So he was there for 3 years.
He was there for the entire 3 years.
And as a lieutenant.
As a lieutenant, but when he picked up his rank there, he was as a captain.
Wow, for 3 years, that's a long service.
Yes, it was his entire service, it was during the Korean thing. And during this time, he was awarded the Mention and Dispatches, and later on, the Veer Chakra Medal for his acts of gallantry during the Korean War, which I will come to later.
Yes, sir.
And the rest of his biodata, I'll be very brief. He was a pathologist when he came back. He was a pathologist graduated in pathology, did his MD pathology from the Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. He did his MRCP from Edinburgh in 1966 and joined the Royal College of Physicians. He served in various appointments in the Indian Army in various units, and he commanded the medical battalion, 406 Medical Battalion, during the Bangladesh War. Thereafter, he also attended the National Defense College. He served 2 tenures in administrative posts in Jammu and Kashmir. And finally, he was awarded the Paramvish Seva Medal, and he assumed the appointment of Director General Medical Services in June 83 till his superannuation in January 86. This, in brief, is his biodata.
Very brief, but long.
38 years total service.
When did he pass away?
He passed away on 22nd January 2018.
So he died with 74, 84,
92.
92. So let me ask this question. Did he tell you about his service as a Korean War veteran?
He not only did we exchange, rather he told me a lot of his stories during his Korean tenure, but in the early 90s, as I will show later on, he had a lot of correspondence with a few of his patients of the Korean War in the Australian Army and the British Army.
Did he serve with them?
No, they were his patients in the Korean War.
Patients.
So they corresponded with him, and I have got those letters with him and their names, which I will come to. So that was his thing, and we discussed, he used to often remember how cold and the circumstances which they had to endure in those days when they first reached Busan in November 50.
Can I call you first name?
Please do so.
Amitava, you know that India doesn't teach about the Korean War, right? In the school.
Yes.
And your father's correspondence with his former patients during the war, it's going to be fantastic stories to share with the students, young generations in India and all over the world, and also young generations in Australia. So, would you please scan those and share that with us?
I would be delighted to. As a matter of fact, when I show you those, there was a lot of cross correspondence in the 90s, between 92 to 95, after he superannuated. And they used to send questionnaires to him about Operation Tomahawk and the activities of 60 Para. And he used to send questionnaires to them that after they recovered from the 60 Para, the wards in the 60 Para, where all did they go and where all did they serve. So there is a lot of cross correspondence which is available, which I will show you.
So he worked as a pathologist?
Pathologist was when he came back from Korea. At that time, he was just a medical officer.
Medical officer, okay.
Medical officer who used to look after the ADS, that is the Advanced Dressing Station, which were attached with the various battalions facing the enemy.
So please introduce some of those correspondents.
Yeah, I will come to that. The General Cariappa had seen them off at Ranchi, and they arrived on 20th November at Busan. It was at Daegu where they were first housed in a school building. And the Daegu, it was, as he mentions here, it was extremely cold. And the US 8th Army was already there and heading further. And then the 60 Para were asked to move towards Pyongyang.
Pyongyang?
Yes. They were accommodated at Pyongyang in a reception camp. And on 4th December 1950, they received orders now to move south from Pyongyang because of the advance.
Yeah, of Chinese.
Yes. This was where he describes, I will read in his own words, at the station there were thousands of South Koreans with small baggages and innumerable children waiting to go back to South Korea. They looked terror-stricken, miserable, numbed by the cold, and it was extremely difficult helping them. There was no civil organization to help with their evacuation at that time, and we did all which we could. Their train reached Seoul, South Korea, on 6 December 1950, and thereafter, on 15 December, General Robertson, commanding the British Commonwealth Forces, visited their unit, and then they were divided into their various two surgical teams, their dental team, and their advanced dressing station with the medical officers. The rear group moved by train back to Daegu, and the others were deployed with the 27th British Commonwealth Brigade. He's got the entire history written down. I will show you his diaries, but I'm just reading excerpts.
Yes, briefly.
Yeah.
And then we want to scan that so that people
have access to it. He was for a long time, they were with the rear detachment in Daegu, and as they mentioned, offering their services to the local population as well as the British Commonwealth troops. They were given a 200-bedded hospital provided by the provincial police and for their families. The patients, both battle casualties and medical cases, they were all scattered on the floor. That is from where they started. And then they gradually built up. And thereafter he goes on to describe how they also associated with the American MASH hospitals.
MASH.
Yeah. By that time the River Han had frozen. And it was at this stage that Operation Tomahawk, the commanding officer, Colonel A.G. Rangaraj, had offered their services for Operation Tomahawk of the 8th Army of the Airborne Division. And on 21st March 1951, the surgeon of the combat team visited the unit at Tegu and requested for their surgical teams to join them in the airborne operations.
So after that, they move up to the 38th parallel, right?
The forward detachment, this was on one side, the surgical teams going with the airborne operation. On the other side, the forward detachment, in the meantime, you're absolutely right, had moved north to the 38th parallel, called the line Kansas.
Kansas line.
Yeah, they were called the Kansas line. And this was secured with a fair amount of casualties on the 17th of April.
See, not many people know about this.
Yeah.
Nobody, especially in India, and it's a shame. It's a shame, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but this is a history, and there are quite a few. As a matter of fact, the surgeon, Major General Rangaswamy, he is also no more. He was the one who went with the Operation Tomahawk, and he also has written his memoirs.
Can you explain Operation Tomahawk for the audience, please, just briefly, as much as you know?
Yeah, the 8th Army, the aim of the Operation Tomahawk was to cut off the retreating army of the North Koreans and Chinese. There were a few enemy at the DZ zone. They were chased off. Casualties were few, but the serious ones, they could not keep them at the forward station. They had to send them back to the rear.
Yes.
The detachment of the field ambulance moved along with the elements of the 187 RCT, and they had opened up the underground operation theater there. And thereafter, the 8th Army and 187 RCT made a special tribute to 60 Para for helping them out during this Operation Tomahawk, where they were cutting off the rear of the enemy.
Excellent. So that's how they cut off the logistical line so that the enemies are incarcerated.
They were contained without their logistical supplies.
Exactly. So that the 60 parachute ambulance unit contributed to that operation of Tomahawk.
They contributed by sending their surgical team and medical officers to the airborne division, which were executing this.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But Amitava, please, do you remember anything that's still in your head about things that your father told you about his service as a Korean War veteran?
Okay, so I will just, at this stage, I think it is appropriate for me. This is a photograph of my father and myself.
You're reading my mind.
This is in 1985, when I was commissioned as a captain in 60 Para, and he was attending as DGMS Indian Army. This was at the dropping zone in Agra.
Wow, he looked very handsome. It's like, I feel like he's looked like a Gregory Peck, the American movie star, huh? And you look very thin.
Definitely. Yes, definitely.
Can you hold it again? I want
Yeah,
to take
please.
a picture. Yes, a little lower, so that I can, yes. Excellent, thank you.
So, and at this stage, he was awarded the Veer Chakra for his action. So,
What does that mean?
the Veer Chakra is the third, in order of priority, the third Gallantry Award medal, which is given in the Indian Army during times of war. And I think it is appropriate that I'll just read out his citation. So, Captain Ashok Banerjee was in charge of the casualty clearing post at Mariang San in Operation Commando. from 3rd to 8th October 1951. His task during the operation was to collect and evacuate the wounded from the 1st Royal Northumberland Fusiliers and the 3rd Royal Australian Regiment. On the 5th and 6th October particularly, this officer had to treat and evacuate more than 150 casualties. Though his casualty clearing post was often under heavy shell fire from the opposing areas, he worked without any regard to his personal safety and tirelessly rendered skillful medical aid to the wounded and speedily arranged their evacuation. The way the officer carried out his duties during this operation was very commendable. By his calmness and courage, his devotion to duty and professional skill, he saved many lives. It is for this thing, on between 3rd and 8th October 1951, my father was awarded the 3rd highest gallantry award, that is the Veer Chakra.
Could you spell it?
The award?
Yeah.
VIR,
R.
capital C, HAKRA.
VIRCHAKRE.
Yeah,
Veer Chakra.
that's it.
That's an honor, and that's why we need to scan this.
I will have this sent.
Available for your children and grandchildren of him.
Yeah. So, as I had mentioned earlier,
The letters.
letters and as I had mentioned, all his photographs are in the National War Museum with his certificate in Korea with his certificate of donation. Having the privilege from your country to visit that place, I was very honored to find it right in the middle of the 60 para section, and this is the certificate which was given to him.
Excellent. That's great. So he gave all the documents to the war memorial?
Absolutely. It comprised of newspaper articles in the English newspapers. This is what he gave: the album itself with the pictures, a few pictures of Ramgarh and Gurdaspur before the battalion left. Most of the pictures were taken by the other Veer Chakra award winner, Brigadier N.C. Das. And it has a whole lot of newspaper clippings and radio announcement made in the English newspapers in India at that time about the 60 para in the Korean War.
You don't have copy of those?
The entire original is with the Korean government. It was His Excellency the Ambassador had given another copy of that, which in 2016, while I was posted as a commandant in Lucknow, my father gave it to the AMC Center Records and School, where in the Army Medical Corps it will be preserved.
Preserved.
Yes.
So if we can scan all those,
Yes.
I can make a special page in our website about your father.
Yeah.
If you provide those historical artifacts scanned, then we will have a special web page so that everybody can learn from your father, okay?
Okay.
You promise?
The album, as I said, one of them is in Korea, the other is with the AMC Center. It has been handed over to the Indian Army Records, so it will have to go through an official channel to get that album now.
Yes. And I'm going to meet with the director of War Memorial in Korea as soon as I go back.
Correct.
I'm going back to Korea May 6th.
Right.
And I'll ask them to scan it for us.
That is because those are the original articles and photographs.
Excellent, sir. Could you introduce one of those
Yeah.
correspondents?
Yeah, I will just show you a few more photographs which we have kept. This is my father at that time.
At that time. Beautiful.
And these are, of course, various photographs. You'll have to come closer of the Korean War, their location of their ADS, some of the visiting.
I will take a picture of it.
All these, their generals, my father in correspondence with the British as well as the Australian, and there are, of course, photographs of my father.
I'll take a picture later, okay?
Okay,
Yeah.
most welcome. Yeah, so now you wanted the correspondence.
Yeah.
Okay, this we will show at the last.
It's a mobile museum.
Yeah, that's why it took me a couple of days. This was another photograph which has come out in the calendar this year, which you had published. They got the initials of my father wrong, but this is my father treating the casualties, which I had mentioned just now.
That was published by the MPBA, right?
Yeah,
Korean government.
correct. And letter of appreciation. Yeah.
Finally.
Okay, so one by one, there's a gentleman called Mr. John Smallridge, New South Wales. Now,
British soldier.
Australian.
Australian, okay.
Now, he is writing on 12th of June 1992, and he gives his details. I remember vividly these chaps because
What's his name again?
Mr. John Smallridge.
Can you spell?
John, I think it's Small Ridge. SMALLRIDGE.
Okay.
He mentions the wounded were carried downhill to the ambulances, passed through the battalion RAP and then to 60 Parafield ambulance. I remember these chaps because of their kindness and great lengths they went to make us comfortable. Then from there on, he says how he gives the description of how he has been transferred, and various correspondence at that time, that is 92, with the other commanding officer and members of 60 Para Field Ambulance. They had exchanged various questionnaires, as I had mentioned earlier, and the entire their history from Operation Tomahawk, like in this one, aircraft number 29, Colonel Rangaraj, Major Rangaswamy, Nayak Orderly Dilip Singh, Ambulance Orderly Ram Ashray. Aircraft number 30, Captain A.K. Basu, Nayak Orderly Ram Surman, Nayak Orderly Sitaram, Nayak Orderly Mangatram. So, and the entire operation with their cross notes have been mentioned in these letters. This was possibly for also their own publications in Australia, because he goes on to mention the various officers, Captain Douglas, RAMC RMO of the Southern Highlanders, Sergeant Cooper, the various photographs and all they have exchanged. Then Captain R. Martin, RNZ-AMC, RMO-16 RNA-Z8. I think this was a part of the New Zealand forces also. I am not very certain of this, but the initials and abbreviations show that. So this is the various correspondence and letters which he had sent. This is all in the mid-90s on the Korean conflict, with very specific details about the awards won by their troops, as well as what all they participated, who all suffered casualties and were treated with 60 para.
There will be very interesting correspondence that we can analyze and make it available for everybody.
Yeah. So that in brief was this, and we have these two photographs which are very precious to me, because the first photograph shows the officers of the 60 para when they left for Korea.
Yeah.
This is at Gurdaspur.
Can you just put it a little bit, yes, so that we don't have a reflection from the
Yeah.
A little more, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
The second was photograph is the party of officers and Jawans from 60 Para on their return in July 1953 to India.
Hold up a little more. Yes, and then hold it right there. Let me zoom. A party of officers and Jawans from 60 Indian Field Ambulance
Yeah.
on return from Korea, July 1953.
Absolutely correct.
That's amazing. Hold it. Freeze.
Thank you. Like I said,
Thank you. That's why we need to do this, okay?
and this one is very special. This is the actual diary of my father in the Korean War in his own handwriting.
Amazing. Show it to me.
So all what I read was later on typed by my better half when he used to dictate to them.
Open it and show it to me, please. Hold it up, please. Yes. A little down. Yes. So I think we need to transcribe this.
So this was his. This diary has, in addition to his own daily this thing of how cold, etc. It also has things which he packed for himself, extra pairs of shoes, extra pairs of socks. Means then, like on 6th of 12th, he has written transport, station-fitted jeep, 1 station wagon, 15 casualties. You know, daily notes on a day-to-day basis throughout the 3 years. This is the original.
Do you have grandchildren or children?
No, we lost our son way back
I'm so sorry.
in 1999.
I'm so sorry. Somebody need to transcribe it, and we need to scan those things too.
Okay.
You know, that's going to be really important.
So I thought I should show you this, that it is from this, what I read out in the initial pages, he had taken the relevant parts and made it into a history of his stay with 60 Para during the 3 years. But the initial notes are from this diary.
Yeah. Excellent, sir. I really admire you that you have maintained all of your father's legacy in a very ordered way, consistent way. And I want to ask this question because we don't have much time.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question. When you're growing up and in the high school and you are also very intellectual, served in the same unit, you haven't learned anything about Korean War when you were in high school, right?
No. As a matter of fact, you would be surprised, but in our school as well as during the service in the army, we have learned naturally more about our western neighbors and our northern neighbors and our battles with them, right from 1947 onwards. Of course, when you go to the UN section of it, like I myself have served for 1.5 years in the Democratic Republic of Congo, in the UN section of it, the Korean War has a very high place. Because of all the UN missions sent, during the Korean War, the maximum gallantry awards were won by the Indian troops in a UN mission.
But when you were in high school, when you didn't learn anything about Korean War in your curriculum,
No.
but you still knew that your father served during the Korean War, right? How did you feel about it? Your father served there and healed so many people, but Indian history book doesn't talk about those.
One must understand, India is a vast country, and from our time of independence, we have fought numerous wars. And in these numerous wars, whether it is, as I said, with our western neighbor Pakistan or with the Chinese, we have lost countless troops and very great battles have been fought in which our armies have come out absolutely decisive, victorious.
Yeah.
So definitely those are the ones still which have made it, to answer your question, have made it to the school books. I would by no means say that the Korean War was smaller, but definitely it is not yet in the textbooks of the children in schools in India as of today.
Yeah, that's why we are doing this. That's why my foundation made this curriculum book
So nice of you.
in the United States. Show that to me, please, to the camera. We want to make an Indian version of it based on your father's diary, pictures, and correspondence.
Right.
If you provide those materials to me, and that I am confidently saying to you that that's going to be the best way to preserve your father's memory. Because I don't think War Memorial in Korea make all those albums and pictures and your father's artifact in digital way. We need to make it digital way so that we can preserve it permanently and make it available to anybody in the world at any time, anywhere.
I would agree with you on that point. It is not only neither in Korea, even in our, let us say, in our Army Medical Corps museums, it is not digital. The copy of the same album is kept in the AMC Records, Lucknow, but it is in its physical form, not the digital.
So I had a talk with the General Pannu, who was at the northern part fighting against Chinese, introduced by the Force Motors chairman, Firodia.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to have access to the data, the documents that the 60 parachute ambulance unit has in Agra. And I really want to have access to your father's material.
This, as I mentioned very clearly, because you see, in 2016, when my father was ailing and he wished to give away this photocopy album with its cuttings, we were actually debating whether to give it to the unit or to the, but why it was given to the AMC Records, because the AMC Records have a museum in Lucknow, where the AMC for 250 years, whatever the Army Medical Corps has done, whether in the British Army or by itself, they have kept there. So, because the unit keeps moving, so it is more permanent there.
Did your father revisit Korea after he came back?
Oh yes, he went twice.
And have you been to Korea with him?
No, I didn't go with him because that time I was in operational areas while serving with the Army Medical Corps. I went at a later date in 2015 with my wife.
And so please tell me about what your father saw when he made a revisit to Korea.
Yeah.
Compared to 1950 to 53.
When I remember he went in, if I am not mistaken, 1995 was the first, and 2005 or 2003 was the second visit. So the first visit I do remember, he came back and he said that, it is, he said, I couldn't recognize it. All the places, he could not recognize it. He said it's like a phoenix coming out of the ashes. He says when we had left the railway station, the railway yards, the schools, wherever we had in half-broken buildings, had, worked, served the people, everything was gone, and in its place was a phoenix-like city which one could not imagine that such a small country like the South Korean Republic has built in these so few years. Means from where they have come and where they have gone. He was most appreciative. He says the dedication of the people as well as their leaders to come out from that state to what they are today is absolutely phenomenal. There's no...
Amitava.
Yeah.
Korea was able to build their nation again because your father was there for 3 years to heal the Korean people and other soldiers.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't talk about it here. I want to challenge that. I've been doing this for 21 countries.
I believe
so. I
so.
am doing this with the British. They already published the British version of that curriculum book.
Okay.
Canadians are publishing this year. My foundation funded them, okay. All of them. I want to do it in India, but you have to help me.
Definitely, we will definitely help you.
You promised. Okay?
That I promise.
And I documented.
Yeah,
it,
okay?
And I have a witness here. Too.
Yeah, you've got 2 witnesses.
Okay, so Amitava, you've been to Korea 2015, right?
Right.
Tell me what you saw and what do you know about the Korea now?
We were taken, I was most interested the day they took us to the demilitarized zone, and it was very impressive to see the areas, the Han River, which in the diary my father has described so many times that they could just cross over it, how they walked over the ice. So, these small areas, the 38 parallel, to see it actually, rather than to just read the lines, it was, and the rest of the city, of course, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
So you know that Korea is a very small country.
Yes.
But now it's the 10th largest economy in the world and one of the most substantive democracies in the world, actually.
Yes.
They know how to put their president into the prison. 2 of them were there. And India is a little bit ahead of in terms of the whole size of the economy because you are so big country. This is the legacy of your father, and let's talk about those, okay?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. What would you say to the Korean people?
So I find
remembering your father's memory.
I find their dedication, whatever little I've seen of them. You see, I have had interaction with them in my years of service because I'm also a member of the Korean Radiologists Association, and they have held a lot of talks here with our Indian Radiological and Imaging Association. So when they come to know that my father is a veteran, we naturally exchange a little more notes. And of course, we had a conference recently in Bangalore. Your Samsung has come out with the latest CT and ultrasound machines. Of course, it was a totally professional interest on my part. But we find it amazing the way they take various concepts ahead. If I may say so, like Samsung earlier, they used to just show phones. The same phone today, he shows me the digital image for a radiologist. So I find that their technology advancement in this thing is amazing. There's no other word for it.
Amazing. I wish I had more time with you.
Yeah.
But the thing is, other descendants are waiting. So
Definitely.
we have to end sometime soon. But the thing is, my foundation also hosts World Congress of History Teachers from 22 countries. This is how we believe that we can continue the legacy of your fathers and other Korean War veterans, so that teachers can keep talking about it. Otherwise, those material will be buried
Absolutely.
somewhere because
Absolutely.
we all die, right?
Absolutely.
We need to put that into curriculum book and train our history teachers. That's what we are going to do. And I'm going to host a conference, World Congress, sometime in New Delhi or Pune or Mumbai. I wish that we can have all of you witnessing in front of history teachers from other countries, from Denmark, from Great Britain and Philippines, and talking about the role played by the 60 parachute ambulance unit of India and custodian force who repatriated the prisoner of war.
The 60 para, it is from the Korean War that they were given the term as the Airborne Angels.
Airborne Angels.
And that name has stuck till today.
Thank you so much for coming with a very well-organized historical artifacts of your father, Amitava Banerjee.
Thank you.
Amazing person, and amazing Indian, and amazing Korean War veteran. And
thank you, Professor.
I really thank you for your time and sharing your father's story with you also.
Thank
as
you.
a very honorable Indian Army retired. So thank you again, sir.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much.